All right, it's August 2nd, 2024. This is CodeStream 2.2. This is Daniel, and I'm going to start, as we often do, by making a massive GitHub push. This is 1,177 files changing, and while that is going to be pushing, we're going to get to the point. What's the point? Here, we're going to move forward from CodeStream 2.1, and we're actually going to generate the written grants. So where we got to last time was writing the pre-pro grants, which is to say the concatenated prompts. But now in writing outputs, we're actually going to get to the written catechisms for grants. So here we go, hundreds of grants, and we're going to get through all of that. So pushing to the GitHub. While this is happening, I'll start walking through this repo. Everything can be found at the active inference repo in the folder 1, prepare, methods, research methods. It's all going to be under here in research methods. Okay, let's get familiar. And during this stream, we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to see a lot of methods and meta methods. There's going to be some transferable skills and some learnings. Of course, the open source code, which you can generalize. And let's get right into it. Okay, so first to familiarize yourself with the folder. There's research methods, which contains under research all of the methods and outputs that we're going to use. Then there's three other kinds of things in this folder. There are catechisms, which are a series of questions. Catechisms are going to play an essential role in mediating the actual operationalization of the grants. Catechisms in this folder are not used. This is because if you put catechisms into the catechisms folder, then this is going to multiply the amount of work by 5. So if you're interested in how catechisms influence productivity, you might experiment with multiple dimensions of catechisms. But here, just to go broad on the entities and the grants, I'm only going with one catechism. Then there's two folders, entities and grants. So in the grants folder, I've added a bunch of new opportunities like related to Templeton Foundation. The meta is the bigger mission for the organization. So that's the kind of meta of any program. NIST, a bunch of real NIST programs. And largely these programs, I'm just copying things I found on the site or had Perplexity write summaries of the programs. So Future Life Institute and some of the ones that we had before. Then in the entities, there's several new kinds of entities. Here we go. Looks like we're all updated on GitHub. I'm just going to reopen that one. Reload active inference, and major push 2 minutes ago. So yeah, we're live. All right. In the entities. So from last time we had Active Inference Institute, Mal Alberassen, John Clippinger, Chris Fields, Carl Friston. Here I've added, without adding any other resources in, just a Buckminster Fuller worldview. So that should be pretty fun. Get Bucky writing some grants. I added several podcast discussions and a worldview script for Deborah Gordon, who is my PhD advisor. Ines Hippolito, Mike Levin, we had last time. I've added since yesterday Maxwell Ramstead. So I brought in 6 or 7 transcripts from him, generated a synthetic worldview model for Ramstead. And then there's going to be some new interesting ideas, specifically related to these full synthetics. So here in math, art, and philosophy, I've created a full synthetic agent. So here I had it create just a synthetic artist. So it just describes many, many, many core artistic principles, many, many, many art media, many artistic frameworks, perspectives on art and technology, art cognition, art education, art manifesto. So that's the artist. Here's math. This is kind of like a math textbook or like a math curriculum because it's just giving a ton of terms. But in semantic space, this is going to be a very strong representation of math. And then similarly, synthetic philosophy. Even though synthetic may mean something different to the philosophers, or maybe not, but a bunch of philosophical terms. So these are like synthetic spike-ins. And that'll help us get some pins in the semantic landscapes that we're going to investigate, because we can say, okay, this vector is math, this vector is art, this vector is math art, this vector is a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So those are kind of like synthetic spike-ins. And the analogy there is when gene expression studies use a synthetic spike-in, like a known sequence with a known abundance, or two sequences with a known ratio, stoichiometrically, that enables the calibration of the measurement and the system. So we looked at the updated entities. Now let's go into the methods. This is where the development has been. One of the things that we're going to do in CodeStream 2, we're going to update the README a little bit. We're going to add more things during the stream. So that's live chats, ideas, bugs, comma, bugs, comma, bugs. Okay. And then we have the short-term goals that we got from last time. So let's start with the beginning, which is write Grant synthetic prompt. So I'm going to clear everything. Pull up the terminal. So again, just to refamiliarize ourselves with the cursor window, here on the top, I have an editor notepad. This can be executed locally in the terminal window, which is shown here, terminal. The left is a file structure. And then with Control-Shift-L, you get the sidebar chat, which can be totally random. So just warm me up psychologically for a epistemic and hilarious live stream. So it's going to use the code base for context, but let's see where it goes with that. Then let's look in this folder, and maybe during today we'll even like rename or renumber some of the scripts just to make it clear, because we're already getting into a lot of different outputs. Okay, so we've cleared everything. We're going to start with write_Grant synthetic prompt. What that does is it's going to generate the all by all catechism by entity by Grant. So now if we go here to Grant prompts, we can see that it has 392 items. So that means if we would have used a second catechism, it would have doubled this into, you do the math. First, let's see the psychological warmth. Okay, set clear intentions, visualize success, practice mindfulness relaxation techniques. Too late, oh no. Positive self-talk, I'm trying. Prepare for the unexpected, always. Know your material, engage with your audience, technical setup, warm-up exercises, have a backup plan, know your audience, be authentic, timing delivery, relatable content, stay positive. Okay, got it. Okay, so synthetic Grant prompts are generated into this Grant prompts folder. So that's the first step. Now, where we were at yesterday was we were able to do the Grant prompt meta-analysis.py. So this was a language processing script that in the writing outputs is going to go into the Grant prompt meta-analysis. So here is where we saw, and with some developments too, these are semantic analyses on the concatenated pre-pro grants. So the pre-pro grant, the reason why I call pre and pro, even though both are basically meaning before, it's actually like pre-pro insulin. It's like pro insulin is what is processed to insulin, but pre-pro insulin is 2 processing steps away. So the grant itself would be like formatted according to the requirements, 12 pages here, document here, CV here, biosketch there. The pre-grant would be the catechism for the grant. Like, what is the team going to do? What is the project about? How is this going to be accomplished? The pre-pro grant is the prompt that leads to the catechism. So I believe that it's accurate to say that these concatenated prompts, for example, here's Bucky Fuller by the IARPA meta. And so just like you could determine from the code base, you have this kind of general header. You're going to have to write this grant according to the catechism as written. Then here's Bucky's worldview. Here's the catechism. And then here's the IARPA meta. So that's all that's in those 392 scripts. And then what we were looking at yesterday was we could do this meta-analysis. So let's just put that away for now. Okay. So then what we were doing 2 days ago was we were taking that pre-pro grant, dropping it into Perplexity, just saying, write it. But we are now in the next step. So this is using the OpenAI API. I would love to collaborate with open source colleagues to do some local language models and such. This is 133 lines long. And what it does is first, it loads the API key from the LLM keys.key file. So you'll see this file here. It's grayed out. That's because it's included in the gitignore. .key is in gitignore. Star.key means anything.key. So in other words, this file is not going to get pushed to GitHub. So my actual API key is in this file, which I'm not going to open on a live stream. And then it is going to use that for the use LLM to write grants. So when you clone the repo, you may have to add LLM keys.key according to the syntax described. The grant writer class is going to take in your API key. It's going to look to the output directory, which is going to be the written grants folder, where there are currently already many grants written, pre-grants, should I say, pro-grants. And then it gives a maximum number of words. And there's a little bit of finessing and playing around with the number of tokens for different models. We'll get into that in a second. The model being used right now is GPT-4o-mini. I started with doing some GPT-4o, and writing about 2 grants already cost like $2 each, US dollars each. GPT-4o-mini was dropping into the fractions of a cent. So this is only going to cost a few cents. I might report at the end of the live stream from my API dashboard the total cost, but this is going to be just a couple of cents, even if it's running continuously. It grabs those prompts, and with these parameterizations, you could get multiple returns, you could set the temperature differently, and so on. It just processes the grants and saves them. Importantly, there's also a method that makes it so that first, it tells you and shows you what does the length distribution look like. So here we're going to go Python 3, use _ LLM write grants. I mean, isn't that a method that we've wanted for a long time? So word count histogram has been saved as word count histogram.png. So then we can look at this and we can say, okay, so these are the size of the pre-pro grants. These are the prompts that we can then send along. So many of them, and I know that a word is not exactly a token for an LLM, but it's just a quick proxy. So most of them have under several thousand, or the most number have under 5,000. But then there's a bunch, and this is partially because a lot of the BAAs are very long. So later on, we'll get to where the LLMs summarize the grants. But first, what I worked on was condensing the .py worldviews and condensing the meta so that they were only a couple hundred words each, so that this was easier to fit in the context window of these LLMs. So then we're in use LLM write grants. Do you want to continue? So it's because we set 10,000 to be the maximum parameter for the number of words in the prompt. It's going to say, okay, so here's the statistics on the word length distribution. There's 166 that are below or equal 10,000 words. Should we continue to proceed with those 166? Yes. So it's skipping where there's an exceeding of the maximum word length. And then it's hanging because now it's processing. And then it's going to print to the terminal how long each request took. So that will take a second. Meanwhile, this one is still working on the visualization. And we'll look more at PCA visualizations in a second. Meanwhile, let's look at what the written grants look like. So remember, we summarized the entities, then pitched them combinatorically using a catechism. So let's see Professor Deborah Gordon pitching to the NIST meta using the synthetic catechism. What'll be fun is let's go into these through the GitHub. First off, because this is all open source. And second off, because let's see how the written grants look. Let's just pick a random one. Maxwell Ramstead by the NIH Meta. Okay. Simple. Now, many of these might be very plain. So this isn't saying that's what you submit. Again, it's the pre-grant. It's the catechism for the grant. It's where you can approach people and say, this is kind of just where we're starting. What would you add in here? Like Professor Gordon pitching to the DARPA Meta, understanding and harnessing collective behavior in ant colonies for advanced problem solving. Our project aims to explore the emergent behaviors of ant colonies. Landscape analysis, innovation, and the sections and what the sections address is defined by the catechism template that you use. This is one of the really important things, and that's what's so fascinating is the catechism format you can write on paper. So that's not like, quote, AI. That's just deliberation and realism and pragmatism about projects. Let's come back to cursor. So here we go. The generation time for the synthetic artist to the NIH Meta was 61 seconds. So now let's just do, these files are all getting added in. Let's just pushing. Then let's see on GitHub what, it's kind of like a setup for a joke, right? What did the synthetic artists say to the NIH Meta when they were mediated through the synthetic project catechism? As soon as that writes, we'll do it. Okay. Reload. And then, okay, synthetic art. How about the synthetic artist to the SAM Meta? So this is the government kind of grants and opportunity website, sam.gov. Our project will create an interactive platform that connects artists, educators, and the community to explore and appreciate contemporary art forms, particularly those that utilize technology. This initiative will promote artistic expression as a means of communication and cultural reflection. It's at the intersection of art and technology. Cool. Okay. Let's look at synthetic art by DARPA. What about DARTA? The synthetic art entity aims to address the gap in the integration of artistic expression and advanced technology in defense application. By leveraging art as a medium for communication and innovation, we can enhance the cognitive and emotional engagement of warfighters, thereby improving operational effectiveness and mental resilience. Okay, interesting. So, we're getting all these grants. They're taking between 50 to 90 seconds to build each, and they're just getting dumped into this written grant folder. I'm just going to halt that script just because we kind of get that. I'm going to show a few more things. So first, we're going to go to LLMs to summarize grant prompts. The reason why I wrote this script, which is templated off of the use LLM to write grants, was because when you look at this word count histogram, there's this long tail, and these are driven by long BAAs. So some of these BAs, again, I copied in an 80 or 100-page PDF, so there's a lot of extraneous lines, etc. And I tried a little bit, okay, try to summarize this, but then cursor would often delete large sections. So I thought, oh no, okay, so this is where we need Atlas and structured methods, etc. Side note. But what can we do in the meantime? Well, we can do Python 3 LLM to summarize grant prompts. What this is going to do into the summarized grants output is it sends the BAA to, we'll just look at this in the code, configures logging, picks up the API key just like the last script. Here's the grant summarizer. You're an expert specialized in summarizing complex grant application. And I ask it to retain all semantics while giving a summary between 700 and 1500, or 750 and 1500 words. So then if we have the entity worldview.py in like the 500 to 1500 word, the summary of the grant in 500 to 1500 words, and then the catechisms are several hundred words, but sometimes even down to like 100 words, if it's just the Halmile or something. Then we're looking at just several thousand tokens for entity X, grant X, catechism. So that is getting it super tight really fast. And then it just sends and pulls back from the OpenAI API. So that's the summarize methods. So a thing that we could do in the next few minutes on the live stream is we can actually turn the LLM writer onto the summarized grants. We can do different things. Again, if anyone's in the live chat, they should write a suggestion and let's just see something funny we can try. Okay, but the summaries aren't being used now. Here's the last method that I wanted to look at and then perhaps improve a little bit on stream. Let's clear it all. Okay, LS or LSL. There's other methods you can use there, but I just use LS, it's shorter, and it shows them tight. Okay, here we are. We're going to do Python 3 written grant meta-analysis. Okay, what is the written grant meta-analysis going to do? It's going to do the linguistic semantic analysis on the written grants folder. So here we have the written grants folder. Let's look at it in our browser. So here we have 110 items have been written. So again, here's Mike Levin by the NSF meta. Our approach is groundbreaking in its integration of bioelectricity, cognitive science, and synthetic biology, proposing that bioelectric signals serve as a form of information processing that guides morphogenesis. Okay, Mike Levin. This is why I focused the worldview to include the capacities and methodologies of the entities, because then the catechism is going to ask about it, the grant's going to talk about it, and there's the triple point. Okay. Here, we now can go further, whereas 2 days ago, we were looking at the linguistic analysis of the pre-pro grants. Now we're going to be looking at the linguistic analysis of the written catechisms, which are kind of like the spec for the team and the starting point and the cover letter for writing the grant. And again, the grant itself would be like this font, that size, this many pages, this margin, all of those types of details. But here, perhaps this is more accurate to call it written pro grants. Okay. Now we're going to look in the written grant meta-analysis. So word clouds takes a long time, so I don't use that method right now. Let's look through the sections. Okay. Here, wow, fascinating. So we'll also have some methods and we can develop some more for PCA interpretability. So what are these axes? Like, why is it that Albarazin, all of her pro grants to different programs cluster down here? Here we have the Levin universe, and then here we have the Gordon, Clippinger, Fields, Ramstead down to Ramstead by Templeton. So, okay, interesting. More clustering, different dimension reduction methods. They project onto in a different ways. So these are, it's just in the spirit of many maps. Okay, entity grant combination heat map. This is just showing where we have grants from. Maybe this could be made more informative. Maybe a heat map's not the best method here. Here we have the first three principal components are shown, as Dean is fond and apt to point out, like, can't you see that corner point of this quote cube. First off, can't you see this as a hex? Second, that quote corner point can be popping in or out. We call that Operation Duck Rabbit. Now, here we have the document. So each of those points, here's Gordon by FLI, mitigation of AI by the synthetic catechism. Now, these are vectors, term vectors. So off to piece, now we get into what do these principal components mean. To the right, we have regenerative bioelectric medicine, biology, bioelectricity. So one might imagine that's driven by Mike Levin. Semantic. Here we have decentralized AI governance, blockchain. So this might refer to computational methods like metagovernance. Here we see cultural misinformation, resilience dynamics, mental health, cognitive. So interesting. This is an accumulation plot of the explained variance by the number of principal components. I truncated it at 30, but we can change that number to a larger one and see how the variance accumulation continues. But this is explaining the variance in that principal component space. Okay. This is just those same terms without the arrows. This is going to be a big image, but this will be a fascinating one. So this is each of those terms. So in principal component analysis, the first principal component is a vector that captures the most variance in the data linearly. Then, after you zero out on that principal component, you go to the second one. So each of these are eating a decreasing fraction of variance. However, each one is always explaining more variance, but it's actually always explaining less more. So this first one is explaining about 10% of the statistical variance. So variation in the usage of the terms that are loaded on PC1 explains about 10% of the variance in the linguistic representation. The second PC adds like 7% explanation. So let's look at what those terms are. So remember, on the right side, we saw the Mike Levin going off in the right. That was just kind of, we're just looking at the vectors. Now we can look, okay, top terms for PC1. So these are terms that are like used in PC1 and not in others. Or usage of these terms would push you to the right on, like using this term would push you to the right on PC1. Regenerative bioelectric, bioelectricity. So this is called topic modeling. Okay, now we get PC2. Decentralized governance in AI. PC3, cultural misinformation. PC4, manufacturing. Manufacturing and some other terms on PC5. And so principal component analysis, it's its whole art. So terms come up again and again, and there's common and shared terms. So it's not about going, well, what does it mean that cybersecurity is PC20? That's kind of the interpretability analysis of the map, but so fascinating that we can look at these generated materials, yes, reflecting a complex information supply chain, weaving through many human and synthetic systems, but still. Okay, let's retain 100 components from the PCA and then rerun the written grant analysis. And then at the same time, we can be continuing to write grants in the background. These are two different terminal window tabs. So this one is, and they're operating on the same folder. This one's looking at the folder and pushing in, this one, the meta-analysis one is looking at the folder, reading the documents, doing these kinds of statistical analyses. Meanwhile, here, this one is iterating through the pre-pro grants and then sending them to OpenAI, getting them back. Okay, let's do use LLM to review grants. Control A, Control K. Update this script to input the written grants in /writing _ outputs / written grants. And for each grant, prepare /send /obtain an API call to OpenAI where the LLM will be a professional review panel giving comprehensive review of the proposal in light of the program rubric, in light of the program goals. Now, if we had those goals, if we had them specified, articulated cleanly in Atlas, or if we had them summarized from another source, it would do better. But let's just see what kind of edits this will do. And again, meanwhile, almost every minute on the minute after minute, hour after hour, we're getting a new written grant. Okay, let's check back. So now we can look at the PCA variance. Here we go with 100 dimensions now. So now we can see, okay, each of these added principal component dimensions is eating up less and less variance, and we're kind of slowly marching towards explaining all the variance. This is going to be a huge file because it's going to be 100 long. But it summarizes those top terms per component, or maybe it only looks at the first 30. Okay. So now we go back to where we were doing the review panel. Okay. Class grant reviewer. This part looks the same. It's still taking input now instead of the output being the right, because we started with what was going to take in the pre-pro grant and give us the pro grant. Now we're going to output into grant reviews. We're using GPT-4o-mini. Now instead of you're a helpful assistant that writes grant proposals, now you're a professional grant review panel. Provide a comprehensive review of the grant proposal in light of the program goals. Okay. Okay. Save it. Python 3. Use LLM review grants. Enter. There we go. There we go. Grant reviews, open the folder. Within the next 60 seconds, we should have feedback. There we go. All right, Maxwell. Here's a review on your grant proposal. Your pre-grant proposal advancing active inference in defense applications. Dr. Ramstead. The grant proposal titled Advancing Active Inference in Defense Application presents a compelling case for the integration of advanced cognitive models into military decision-making processes. The proposal is well structured. Oh, you shouldn't have. Addressing key components such as project essence, innovation, impact, risk assessment, resource allocation, ethical consideration. The alignment with DARPA's mission to foster innovative technologies for national defense is clear and well articulated. Strengths: clear problem identification, innovative approach, comprehensive methodology, interdisciplinary collaboration, impact assessment, ethical considerations, and the areas for improvement, risk mitigation, budget justification. It's basically, it's right. It wasn't presented that detailed. Okay. Market analysis depth, long-term sustainability. Okay. Looks good. But we could say, okay, now make it a critical reviewer panel. So there may be a lot of similarities. I'm not saying this is actually what Ramstead would say, what he would write, what IARPA would write to Ramstead, what anyone would do. It's all just speculative realism. It's all just science fiction and fun. However, the epistemic and pragmatic elements should be pretty clear, and there's a lot of ways to go. So again, if somebody writes something in the live chat, like a specific suggestion for something to try, I'm all attention, and we'll do a few other developments. Okay, so here are the grant reviews pouring in. These are only taking 20 seconds, 12 to 20 seconds each. Okay. Let's kind of pull back. Where are we at? We have this mega repo active for ants that has many, many interesting features in it. In the methods section, we want these research methods to be clear. Right now, there's a couple of research methods whose names are a little bit unclear. So in the spirit of making this easy to run, maybe we could standardize. Certainly we'll update the README. Perhaps standardize the names of some of these scripts. Okay. So this tab is writing the catechisms in response to the grants at a rate of 1 per minute. This one's reviewing them from the same folder. It's just incredible. Okay. So the kind of rip the Band-Aid off method would be, let's get really clear about what we mean by grants, pro-grant, and pre-pro-grant. And I feel like that's kind of important, so let's just do this. We're going to update the README on this. Okay, so grants. This is the fully formatted, ready to be submitted document. It has, e.g., page requirements, font requirements, attachments like letters, budgets, and so on. Pro grants. This is a fully specified catechism. It's fully specified, say answered catechism that is ready to be used to generate a grant. Okay. Pre-pro grant. Can you guess? Incredible. This is the input for the grant writing tool. It is a set of instructions that the tool will follow to generate a pro grant. Okay. Structure this into a markdown, clear, professional, accessible table. This is a key ontological element of the research methods. Both just chugging away. Okay. Quick intra-stream push. Let's just see how that table looks. Okay. Okay. So it is going to change some of the folder names, but I'll debug it and we'll delete and we'll rerun everything so that it'll all be working by the end of the stream in about 20 to 40 minutes, I would expect. Okay. So we're going to have write grant synthetic prompt should be write pre-pro grants entity grant catechism. We could even call this 1. Write pre-pro grants entity catechism.py. Okay. This is the grant prompt meta-analysis, but that's actually now that's really the pre-pro grants instead of grant prompt. So let's rename this to 1.1 pre-pro grant meta-analysis, because it's these two are like their own couple. Okay, let's just see what this one is. Well, let's just ask. Select A, Control A. Here, took it to the side. Just say, comprehensively explain to me what this script does. Okay. Okay, meanwhile. Here we have LLM to summarize grant prompts. Okay. Let's call this one LLM to summarize grants. Let's change this to grant methods. Okay. Generative entity-based research methods. So this is just, let's just run this one for fun. This one is going to analyze the .pys. Debug with AI. Maybe something got pasted in. If this works quick, let's do it. Otherwise, this was just an older one that's just doing kind of like a meta-analysis on, okay, it's gonna fix it. A meta-analysis on the entity.py. Oh, this is funny. There's a few specific coding topics. Line 16, let's just see if we can tell. Yeah, I mean, here's import OS. We can just delete that. Sorry. There's a few coding topics and methods where it just starts to get into these strange loops. We'll see. Okay. Line 366. Let's just accept it. There we go. Okay, okay. This one is outputting to .figure outputs. Okay, this is generating word clouds for each entity. So let's look at what this. So this is not even looking at grants. This will be fun. Okay. Oh, fun. Oh, fun, fun, fun. Oh, too fun. Okay. So here we have the word clouds for Albarracin, Hippolito, Friston, inference. Active Inference Institute, inference. Clippinger, AI, fields, information, reality. Levin, pass, quote. Not sure what that would be from, but we can add those to the stop words. So here, to the stop words, add, quote, pass. So anything that looks like uninformative, we'll just remove it from the cloud. Synthetic art, look at that huge word there, art. Gordon, ant. Synthetic philosophy, moral, aesthetic, embodied ethics. Fuller, geometry, utilizing geometry system-based. Too cool. Okay, let's just do a tiny little edit here. Okay, then we'll look at the rest of the outputs. From these are just the cognitive model comparisons, and then we'll continue on with the renaming and everything. Fix this. take a look at these figure outputs. Here's the stop words. Here it just added quote and pass. Okay, so next thing we'll want to do is to the output directory, we want to change the output directory name to worldview figure outputs. So it just has to run to the end. Okay. Figure output path is going to be entity worldview figure outputs. Let's just call it entity worldview figure outputs. Rerun it just to ensure that, okay, here we go, entity worldview figure output. So it's going to do the same thing here. I'll delete that. Okay, comparative word usage. Okay, here's some this I think could be improved a lot. It's just showing people use different words. Entity clustering. Wow. So cool. So here we have Active Inference Institute and Ramstead with the closest language use. Friston and Fields with close language use. And then synthetic art and synthetic math with close language use. So here we now this is a fascinating group, right? Friston, Fields, Levin, Fuller, Gordon. These are actually all some of the greatest systems thinkers. In this Clippinger, Albarracin, Hippolito, Active Institute, Ramstead, we have a little bit more of a applied active inference, slightly younger and more application oriented. And then synthetic philosophy, perhaps. So you can't read too much into these dendrograms, but wow. Okay, heat maps. So here's where we could look at, oh, here's Hippolito talking about cognitive this many times. So here's, and then you can say, oh, well, wow, you know, of course, the formatting can be improved. Faceted word clouds, okay, that's what we've looked at. And the topic correlation network. Okay, so here we go. These are the topic correlations. So there's a 32% correlation between Hippolito and synthetic philosophy, but 47% between Fields and Levin. 49% between Friston and Fuller. 36 with Gordon. Okay. All right. So that, and now entity worldview figure outputs. Okay, so that's, we can delete figure outputs. We go back to the README. Okay. So maybe we don't need these numbering schemes after all. Let's use a convention of pre-pro-grant. This is pre-pro-grant. This is what it's about, and this writes them. Then we have pre-pro-grant meta-analysis. This is going to be grants, summarize. Summarize with LLM. This one is entity worldview meta-analysis. Okay. Okay, let's close this tab. Close this one. Okay, we're still plugging away, generating those pro-grants. And this one, we had an API limitation. We don't need it right now. Okay. use LLM review grants. These are really, this is really up. These are pro grant review with LLM. This is pro grant meta-analysis. F2, that's a good shortcut. Rename. This is pro grant write with LLM. Okay. Okay. Let's go back. This is just going to be called README. Okay. I'm going to push this intermediate GitHub update. Just in case anyone's like really, really watching live. Like really. Okay. Now we want the README. Let's see how this does. Update this to reflect all scripts in this folder with accurate names and descriptions of what they do. So we'll improve this a little more. Make sure this is pretty clear, then delete everything and just from a clean slate, run it, show what it looks like from a clean slate. But improve the README. Let's put this in the to-do, and then and let's do a synthetic entomologist. Okay, we're gonna update the README. Let's do a synthetic entomologist. We'll just do that for fun. Then, that's first. Synthetic entomology. Update the README for accuracy and accessibility. Okay, it's going to be about 20 more minutes total. Then double check for clean slate start. Okay, let's do synthetic entomology. New folder, following the same convention, synthetic _entomology. That's a folder. New file, same convention, synthetic entomology.py. Write a comprehensive worldview of a professional entomologist using the schema of, e.g., at Hippolito, at Kristen. Include as many relevant keywords, methods, concepts as possible for this bug lover. Okay. So, and then similarly, when I was pulling quotes from the people, I was like, oh, it's so cool with the quotes. And I thought, well, it generated the quotes. Like, bioinformatics, yeah, it does mean analyzing data sets. You can argue what large means, etc. But it generated the quotes. So it knows the semantics of the term. So I can say, please, no definitions needed. just add as many key words to each section as possible to broadly represent entomology. Okay, this is almost there. Then we'll just see if it can fulfill this. Then when we do the clean slate will be bugged. Okay. Well, I guess it is about insects. Look at all these methods. I can't wait to see these pitches. Well, we could do the wind tunnel. We could do the functional genomics of the wind tunnel based upon what we did and found with the sweep netting. Okay, perfect. So this is fewer tokens, and yet it's containing more, probably more. Wait, what is this word? Solastalgia. As opposed to nostalgia, the melancholia or homesickness experienced by individuals when separated from a loved home. Oh, that's nostalgia. Solastalgia, distress that is produced by environmental change impacting people while they are directly connected to their home environment. That's a new word for me. But that's what this entomologist's worldview includes. So, c'est la vie. Okay. We finished the synthetic entomology. Okay. Let's just stop generating stuff for now, because we're about to delete everything clean slate. So that was a couple tens of cents. I could check another window for a couple, but it was probably less than $1 for all the LLM calls that we've done just right now. Again, I'd love to hook this up to various open source other LLM providers. If someone wants to provide like ironic / appropriate grant, let's also explore that. Okay. I'm also going to move Albarracin CodeStream just to 9 into the archived code. 9 others, an awesome section. I'm really excited for the later CodeStream to go through that, but for now I'm just putting older stuff in the science archive. Okay. Okay. This is going to be, it's always on, it's always kind of a scary moment, but I'm going to push the GitHub just in case something wild happens. Just checkpointing, that's the whole point. And then this is how I iteratively develop. I'm not a professional programmer, if it wasn't obvious. So I'm going to delete the whole output folders. Okay. I just deleted the whole output folders, and I've done this many, many, many times. Then that demonstrates from clean slate that it can be fully generated. Because other times, sometimes it's like, oh, when the folder structure's already there, it knows where to put it, but then it'll give an error because the folder's not there. So then that makes along the way, makes it the case so that I have to make sure that it regenerates it from a blank slate every time. And this is just because I've been through too many, but then again, not too many Linux installs, Python installs, package installs. And before Cursor, before LLMs, that was where I soured. But now with these methods, it's pre-programs unleashed. Okay. Develop this README so that, yeah, well, it professionalize this README and add some emoji where relevant for GitHub visual excitement. Not hyperbole, though. Okay. Okay. Then we're going to pretend, but it's real, that we have just come in on a clean slate. Oh, this is going to be fun. Okay, we'll push the updated README just so it's like we're gonna kind of like it's gonna be a representation of a simulation of looking at the README for the first time from a clean slate. Okay, clean slate for research methods. Okay. Pull back to research methods. Here's the README. Okay, cool. Grant, pro-grant, pre-pro grant. Here's the overview. Okay, pre-pro grant, right. This generates the synthetic grant proposal prompts. That's accurate. Pro-grant, write with LLM, reads in the prompts, sends it, saves the grant proposals. Well, so, okay, I'm going to actually just rip another layer of the Band-Aid off, which is and we're going to just go systematically. The output folder is going to be not grant prompts, but this is going to be pre-pro grants. Okay, but the cool thing is that's all we have to change. Pre-program meta-analysis. Here, prompt directory. Similarly. And then the writing output. Pre-pro grant meta-analysis. Okay. Here, and it helps because writing outputs, I can see highlighted, there's only 2 mentions. So the grant dear, this is now going to be, let's see. Okay, we're writing pro grants with LLMs. So this is going to output to written pro grants. Here is written pro grants. Written pro grant. Written pro grants. Pro grant reviews. Update the file names and especially folder scheme in light of exactly the grant, in light of the terminology and actual folder / scripts. Okay. Time flies, doesn't it? Okay. Let's trust the plan and then accept it. Push it on GitHub. This is going to be called change in form. Then we're going to reload GitHub again. We're going to restart that simulator. Okay. Okay. Pre-pro grants. See, but it doesn't. Let's do it in here because we will have to fix some things. Okay. So, pre-pro. This generates synthetic pre-pro grants. These are concatenated prompts with entity X, Grant, X, Catechism, combinations. We'll use quotes. So it loads the content to create, it's not a comprehensive prompt, to create, combining this content to create a concatenated output. Outputs a generated prompt to the writing outputs pre-pro grants directory. So let's do exactly that. So this is pre-pro grant write. Okay. So this is going to be the real-time check. Writing outputs. Pre-pro grants. 2, pro-grant write. Uses a language learning. It's like, dude, you're the LLM. To generate pro grants. This is something like the entity responding to the grant call using the format of the catechism. This is why catechisms are so important. Reading the from writing outputs pre-pro grants. Pro grants review. Written program and to review. These are completed catechisms by the entity for the grant call. Pro grant reviews. This does grant summarizations. This is really reading in the grant calls. Maybe that's another layer, but it's all good for now. It's funny because like the program is sometimes called a grant. Like, oh, NSF is offering a different grant this year. But then also the written document is called a grant. Then pro-grant meta-analysis. All right. Okay. We did step 1. Step 2. Python 3. Pro grant write with LLM. Okay. Oh, why is it still looking for grant prompts? Okay, we were running. Okay, that was pro grant write. Writing output. This should output to ensure this outputs to and make the folder if it is not there. I know there's some ways to do multiple window changes. I'd love to work with any open source contributors directly. So this is exactly the kind of bug I was mentioning earlier. So it's like then when you start on a clean slate, and then I've just hit this in so many software projects. Okay, I'm going to just clear, write the program again. Oh. These are now writing outputs pre-pro grants. Clear. There we go. See, now it's so that that was a little bit of a little John Henry moment, you know. Oh, on that one bug, a human entomologist found it faster. So here we go. We have the same, once you get to that terminal output, it's like, oh, okay. Now it's fully working. Okay. So now we can verify, okay, we know step 1 works. We generated the pre-pro grants synthetically. Well, you know, step 0. Step 0. Manually generate at this time the cognitive models / summaries for the entity.py. Then we'll do 0.0. This is we'll just leave it as questions. Okay, so sorry, bug. All right, so now we are both writing the pre-pro grant and written pro grants. I mean, it's a little bit of redundant to say it's a written pro grant because what would it be if not written? But let's leave it there for now. Then pro grant review. Okay. So let's get let's just open this again. Okay. So here's 2 Albarracin by DARPA, Albarracin by NSF. I'm gonna open a new terminal window just so we can speed it up so we can finish the next 10 minutes. Python 3 pro grant review. There we go. Pro grant review. Okay. There we go. Wow. Talk about turnaround. Okay, Mao. Enhancing epistemic resilience through cultural dynamics in AI. Looks like an okay review. 7 positives, 5 negatives. It's a yes. Okay. Okay. Back to the README. Okay. Let's test 4. Python 3. Grants. This is really talking about the grants. Grants summarize. There we go. Summarized grants. These ones only took, I don't know how long they took, but let's just run them. Okay. Then let's open a new window. Each of these are on a separate thread. You could go find earlier in the infer-ans repository some of the parallelization methods, multi-thread handling, meta handling, cognitive handling. Python 3. Pro grant meta-analysis. This may throw an error. Oh, okay. Okay. This is because you can't fit a PCA. You can't fit more dimensions than you have data points. So because there aren't 100 data points, but still, let's just, I'm going to just turn the 100 down to a 2 just to verify this. Save. Oh. Pro grant meta-analysis. Okay, there aren't enough samples here. So I'll just leave this. I'm just going to change them all to 30. I'll just change them all to 50. But this should work. If not, I'll iron it out after there are 50. So that was the pro grant meta-analysis. Okay. Summarized grants literally worked. This is the LLM summarize of the BAA. So that's massively reducing the tokens, but it's also reducing the amount of information. That's why we're really excited about methods like Atlas and P3IF, because then we can have really reduced, strong, interoperable representations that are deterministic, and that'll come into play later. But for now, the summary. Okay, so let's just, again, we generated the concatenated pre-pro grants. We input the pre-pro grant, we wrote it with the LLM to get it to the pro grant step. We reviewed the pro grant with LLM. This is kind of a side note, but it's not really like step 4, but summarize the grant call with LLM, linguistic analysis on the pro grant. But what about the pre-pro grant meta-analysis? Okay, input. Professionalize this and retain all semantics. Okay, 10 minutes left in the live stream if anybody wants to ask any questions. Again, hilarious. They're reviewing, NSF is reviewing these grants as fast as Mao, as fast as this is not a Mao can make them, they're getting reviewed. It's actually faster to review them, but this is not PEO grant. Where's that coming from? There we go. PO, like people. Okay. So we're writing them at 1 per minute for about between 1/10 of a cent and 1 cent USD right now. We're going to do the pro grant meta analysis again, just to verify that it's fine. So that's now I hope it's simpler, because it's like, what do I want? It's like, well, pro grant, what about it? And you do tab again. Okay, pro grant meta analysis. There we go. So it's still, again, it's throwing the error because it's that it still is asking, it still needs at least 50 data points. But the pre-pro grant meta analysis, there we go. So that one, because the pre-pro grants were the concatenated ones. These are the ones where there's 800 in just a split second. Well, let's see how many there are. Pre-pro grants, 392. But if you bring in from this extra catechisms folder, if you bring in these 4, that's going to multiply by 5. It'd be 5x what it is now. So it'd be 2,000 grants, and you just run them through the same process. 2,000 grants at 1 cent per grant, pro grant generation and pro grant review. So that's 2,000 cents. Do the math. All right. So this is fine analyzing the concatenated texts. This one is summarizing all the grants. And there's a very finite number of grants. So this one, it just takes shorter because there's only I've only done 50, but this would be an amazing, one of the many, many amazing things people could contribute to open source, or just ask me questions or leave comments on YouTube. or just get in touch, because we could update entities. We could add more transcripts from entities. We could add grant opportunities so we can give visibility to different grant opportunities. And if it is like clustering in an area that's far away from where someone is, like, that's all good. Maybe that's good. Maybe they just don't need to worry about it. It helps flesh out the semantic space. It helps build a big possibility. So it's just so exciting. Okay, so summarization is proceeding. Pre-pro grant meta-analysis is proceeding. Grant writing is proceeding. Let's open a fourth channel into the same folder and rerun pro grant. What? Tab. Pro grant review. So now we have write, review, and meta-analyze methods for pro grants. And then we'll do write grant. Grant _ write. Okay. So now, previously, when the first time we ran the LLM reviewer panel, there was only 2 pro grants. So then the script halted after just Albaraz and DARPA and NSF. But now there's 15 pro grants. So now here's already the 3rd and the 4th pro grant review. Okay. All right. I'm going to reindex. Okay, see, it's index. This is important to note, like when and how Cursor does indexing. First off, it's an incredible whatever it is, and I also look to complement it with other open source indexing methods, and learn more about what's really happening here. Learn more about how to use this all better. But even given the not fully indexed, like if I wanted the best possible semantic outcome here, it'd be like, okay, maybe come back when it's done indexing. But for now, I'm just going to say, let's, as many know, there's always a little bit of who's on first. About this whole README. Okay. Again, 5 minutes if anyone has any questions. Otherwise, then it's in a good spot. It's you put your OpenAI I'll add a note on this. Make add a note to make an LLM keys.key file to add OpenAI API key. This okay. Dot key is in dot get ignore. So that is not shared open source. Okay. Okay, now this is synthetic bug versus synthetic bug. Will we get an informative update to the README, or which will Claude 3.5 or GPT-4 via Cursor? Okay, here we go. Okay. It might just be putting it into its own like up close context window. It might say, now here's a dialogue. Other times it might have just missed my intention. Oh, here we go. There we go. It was just okay. Okay. It's gonna close with this. Oh, perfect. Oh, this one, and then sometimes this is like I hesitate to even call it a bug, but I notice like I'll start up 7 different I'll be like, start, and then when I get back to the first one, it canceled the request on a longer file. So it is a little bit more effective at this point with smaller files, like under 500 or under 200 lines. Like the shorter, the better, kind of. All right. Okay. Let's do README. I'm just going to copy it in. And then this is going to be like sort of an alternate README. Okay. Entities, close it up. Research methods. This is going to be who's on first readme.md. Okay. Structure this for GitHub as a markdown. Okay. Okay. I'll wait for the markdown, and then that'll be the last words. So, thank you to those who watched. Thanks to those who will watch. I hope everybody gets involved in Active Inference Institute / Active Inference repository. There's mega opportunities. I hope people can use this with right intention, right action. Okay, Claude. Okay. Okay, I'll just read it. So, Abbott and Costello. So you want to know about the meta-grants methodology? Yeah, I need to understand the whole process. Who's on first? No. First, we have the pre-pro-grants right.py. Reject it. Let's start again. So you want to know about the meta-grants methodology? Yeah, I need to understand the whole process. Who's on first? No. First, we have the pre-pro-grants right.py. Okay, so what's on second? No. Second is progrant right with LLM.py. I don't know. That's on third, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. First, we generate pre-pro grants. Pre-pro what? Pre-pro grants. They are the inputs for the grant writing tool. And then we use progrant right with LLM.py to generate progrants. Progrants? What's that? A progrant is a fully specified and answered catechism that serves as the basis for generating a complete grant proposal. So who reviews these progrants? Progrant review with LLM.py does. And what does it do? It conducts comprehensive reviews of the generated progrants. And after that, we summarize the grants using grant summarize with LLM.py. And then we perform meta-analysis on the progrants with progrant meta-analysis.py. And what about the pre-progrants? We analyze those with pre-progrant meta-analysis.py. So who does what? Exactly. I don't know. Third base. Who's on first? Push it. All right. Epic. I think it's in a great spot just in terms of being 7:30 a.m. PT on August 2nd, 2024. So super looking forward to people's thoughts, contributions, etc. All right. Till next time, acting for serve.